Welcome to another episode of Business with Passion. Each show features guests who have transformed their long-term passion into a successful business. I'm your host, Jay Hamilton Roth. My marketing strategy business grew from my love of talking with passionate business owners. In this series, I share their passion with you. So if you're looking for inspiration to enhance your business passion, keep watching.
My passion was to own and operate a meaningful and successful business in a great community where I can start a family and immerse myself in all the values that are important in that community. I grew up in the west end of San Rafael, went to San Rafael High School, graduated in 1978, and so while I was born in San Francisco, I was raised in Marin. And then I went on to Sonoma State, so I never really ventured very far. And after college, I actually became a stockbroker for a couple of years. Was somewhat disenchanted with that, wasn't really my thing. Wanted to be at the other end of the cold call, basically, and own my own business and have a little bit more control about my destiny, I felt. That led me into pursuing a business that I happened to stumble upon that was in a wonderful community that was near where I grew up, and I felt that there was a real opportunity. It was kind of a sleeper. An old fellow named Jack Horn owned it, and he believed in me at the ripe old age of 25. He had run a small, almost glorified convenience store, and he provided food simply because it was a condition of the lease, but he was really in the wine and liquor business. He owned Marin Wine and Spirits, and it had several stores in the county. This was the only one that wasn't called Marin Wine and Spirits. It was actually called the Woodlands Store at the time. I eventually changed it to the Woodlands Market, but prior to that, it was with his confidence and his support that I was able to kind of pull this together. I also used a piece of property of my parents to secure some money that I borrowed to make the acquisition for the business that became Woodlands Market. The idea of getting into the grocery business did not settle well with my dad, whose family heritage that immigrated over around the turn of the century to San Francisco had a market for 63 or so years at the corner of California and Hyde Street, called the Hyde Street Market. However, my dad had remembered the decline of the small independent and didn't carry on with the family business. So when I came around many years later with the idea of getting into the grocery business, it didn't sit well with him. But I respectfully said to him that I was going to do it with or without him, and I went about doing that. And he wasn't too pleased at first, but eventually he came around, and so did the rest of the family. We all created and built a wonderful family enterprise that flourishes to this day, thanks to a great community. In the early years, it was all about really kind of cleaning the place up and doing what you could do to grow the business within my means. And I literally slept there at night. I would work the front end during the day. I'd pay the bills. I remember writing out the checks by hand and licking the envelopes. That's how far back that goes. But and then remodeling or improving by night. And I recall at the time I had not the resources to buy new equipment that it desperately needed, but I bought used stuff and I would trim it out in wood, which certainly tied into the Woodlands theme, has now become a bit of a sort of trademark of ours. So even though they're new cases now, I still trim them out in wood, not to disguise old cases, but to just kind of express what we kind of stand for in our theme. So in the early years, when my father finally came around and joined me in the business, somewhat reluctantly, it turned out that he ended up enjoying it as much, maybe even more so than I did. We worked side by side for the first 2 years without taking a single day off. That's how far he came around on that. So I think he was thoroughly enjoying himself, and so was I. Sadly, he passed away 2 years into it, but to this day it represents a bit of a legacy in that regard, because it forced us to all spend the last 2 years of his life together in a kind of concentrated quality time, because it was invigorating and it was growing and it was positive, and it was kind of going back to his roots. And I thought that's always a fond reflection for me and the entire family. And eventually my mom got involved, my three sisters got involved, and the mother of my children-to-be got involved. So yeah, no, it was truly a family enterprise, and I think that was well accepted by the community because you know, they've certainly have supported us ever since. And I think it established a culture that exists to this day, even though we're up to nearly 200 employees. My ancestors came over from Italy around the turn of the century and started this market in San Francisco. There were three brothers. There was Gaetano, there was Sam, there was Joe, and they ran this operation. One with skill in the produce, one in wines, and one in fish and poultry. So it was kind of a nice background to have in my blood, I think, as I found myself doing much of the same thing eventually. You know, in the early years of starting this business or finding myself running it, I knew virtually nothing about it. I barely shopped for my own food at the time, let alone did I know anything about running that business. So I became a student of the industry, and I did a lot of soul searching, a lot of retail sort of studying, and cherry-picked a lot of ideas from a lot of operators that I thought would best suit the demographic I was starting to better understand, and the community responded really well to most of the stuff, but not everything. There was a lot of hit and miss, and fortunately there were a lot more, you know, winners than losers along the way, but it's that progression that kind of defined what Woodlands is to this day. For the first 10 years of Woodlands, we did everything we could to roll up our sleeves and grow the business within the footprint that we originally acquired, and then we had an opportunity to expand and take over the next 3 spaces within the shopping center, which was going to give us about a third more than we were currently occupying. It was a big step for us at the time. But we did that, and it was a significant effort, and while a lot of people in the community were very protective about us ruining what they had grown to know and love, we went ahead and created a bigger, better Woodlands, and I think everybody has appreciated that ever since. There's a cafe within the shopping center that is soon to become a Woodlands Cafe concept. And it was formerly Willie's Cafe, which was originated when, a couple years after my father had passed away, my sister's then boyfriend, Willie, had passed away tragically in a helicopter crash. He was a local guy, great guy, Will Costello. And you know, at that time, my sister being understandably devastated, I got her involved with taking over this space that had become available within the center that I was concerned would conflict with some of our interests, and you know, it was a good way to kind of maybe occupy some of her time and also honor Will in the process. And she and a very good friend of mine at the time, Nico, started, owned, and operated this wonderful little cafe, which became its own sort of institution. But recently, they sold it a few years later, a few years ago, excuse me, and the fellow that owned it before has moved on, and now we've gotten the space back, and we're going to do a Woodlands concept there. So we're real excited about that, and we think it'll be a great addition to what we currently offer. We have been honored with several awards, a couple of national awards. One was the best independent grocery store in the country, and as a result of that, we've gotten a lot of traffic through industry people. Whenever they have the fancy food show in San Francisco, you know, we seem to always make it on the bus tour, so we're always flattered by that, and you know, we're encouraged to. We're always excited to share whatever we know with other retailers, and then we also have our customers seem to day in and day out take a lot of pride in bringing in family members or visiting from out of town or friends, and it's almost an extension of their home. It's this sort of something that they seem to be really proud of and want to show off, and that of course is more than flattering. Well, you know, one of our greatest challenges in doing what we do, you know, being one of the larger producers in the country, for the amount of square feet that we have available, or actually not available to us, but we've somehow been able to manage well the variety. And while we don't have a lot of facings, we don't require that. We certainly have, you know, as good a selection as probably anybody in the business. We just try to focus as much as we can on the local growers. So anybody who's local, producing something, we always give them a shot, almost sight unseen. With the space that we're limited to, it amounts to between 16 and 17,000 square feet total, with about 10,000 sales area. That's with the existing footprint we have now. And we're, again, taking over this cafe. It's another about 3,000, and in the future, hopefully, we'll take over the remaining space within the center, and that'll bring us up to maybe somewhere between 23 and 24. Still not large by industry standards, but significantly more than we have now. So we'll be able to certainly do more, even hopefully a lot better. Now, having grown to the level that we have, we can recruit and maintain the best and brightest in the business. So we have this incredible team. It's really an extended family that really defines Woodlands. Early on, I recognized that we being kind of the little guy, the newcomer, there was a certain disadvantage to that. But there were certain strengths that I felt that we could hone in on. Being relatively lean and mean, even though my two main competitors were long-standing local legends, we felt that instead of perhaps getting into the whole conventional advertising game, we would take that same amount of money, typically 1% to 2%, and invest it and reinvest it in the community. And that became as much a part of our model and therefore our identity as selling the quality goods that we became to be known for as well. So, and to this day, we're the flagship fundraiser for the local schools, and it's been a big part of our success. For the school alone, the two schools in our respective community, both the Ross School and the Kentfield Middle School in Bayshore School District, we've raised over $2 million over the many years we've been involved. And I'm really proud to say that this community has enabled us to do so. For many years while we were raising money for the schools, I didn't even have kids in the school, but I'm even prouder to say that I do now, so that they're even direct beneficiaries of a lot of that investment and reinvestment over the years. Recently, there's a highly valued member of our community, happens to be a police officer in our town. His name's Officer Bobby, and he helps to make up the very fabric of the small town flavor and attraction that defines our community. And his grandson became very ill with leukemia, and we caught wind of it, and so those of us in the community and band together to create a sort of collective effort to do what we could to help him. And through great privilege and fortune, it sort of it channeled through Woodlands, because that's kind of the epicenter of our community, and but it was with no small effort from everybody in the community that rallied to stand behind Bob and do what was right by his current sort of tragedy. So and I think it's a good example of what our community represents and how we kind of stand in the forefront of that. I still have two sisters involved with the business, my sister Joanne and Sue. And in recent years, we kind of got away from some of the family culture. We have a lot of wonderful people running our business, but it seemed like we were losing a little bit of that cultural edge, and so we've just first of the year, sort of re-engage much of the family, a few members of the family, including my kids now, who are starting to bag up front. So that's a tremendous delight for me, to say the least. What appeals so much to our customer base is that aside from the fact that the textures and the materials in the store and its design is comfortable, almost designed originally to be an extension of their pantry. When we see our customer, some of our customers we see more than they see themselves and their own families. They're there 3 or 4 times a week, right? But they come for the best possible meat selections. We have a wonderful family that runs our meat department. The Zabragia's father is from Lucca, Italy, so he brought over the sort of old world trade, if you will. But we have just such a wonderful bond and connection with the customers. We have added the same produce buyer, Randy Salinas, since I've owned this business for 20 some odd years. And there's a lot of long-standing, loyal customers as well as employees that have a relationship. It almost feels like an extension of their family as much as it is ours. You know, one of the other values I've always felt was very important to our success was the ability to get people in and out of the store quickly. You know, it probably comes from my own impatience, but how insulting is it when you go to a retail establishment and they have one check stand open with 10 people in line and all the other check stands are closed? I've always insisted on having as many check stands open as possible to keep the flow as fluid as possible, because, you know, aside from the great products we offer and hopefully great service is respect for people's time. And I think they're there to honor us, and we in turn need to honor them and respect their time. So we do that as smoothly as we can. Our current plans this year are to expand into the cafe and provide that offering. We're going to create a piazza environment, and it's going to have everything from fresh homemade private labeled ice cream to Nepalese pizza, flatbread pizza, to even fresh tossed salads. I mean, it's going to be a wonderful sort of destination for people to congregate and have that I think will be a wonderful complement to what we've been doing for so long. We'll also be doing all of our baking out of that facility. This will give some breathing room in our existing retail environment. And that's our short-range plan. Next year we're planning on opening up a store in Tiburon. And it's not until the end of the year, but we will take Woodlands to the next generation version and bring to that community every bit of what we've brought to the Ross Kentfield community. We'll bring to the Tiburon Belvedere community, and I don't know that there's been another community that has sort of pursued our presence more than that community. So I always thought that if we ever expanded, that would be where it would be, and it seemed to line up that way. So we're pretty excited about that. After we get Tiburon up and operating, then hopefully we'll be able to roll back into Woodlands and expand the produce section down to where the cafe is, spilling that out into a farmer's market type environment, an indoor-outdoor sort of theme, and take the cafe and move it out to where there's a physiotherapy operation right now, and that would take over the rest of the space, and that would give us every bit of the room that we need to be the best that we can be. And now it's a great opportunity to sort of provide some of the Woodlands Farms concept that's in development right now. So my vision is to one day have these organic, sustainable gardens that will also be an educational tool for the kids, the local schools that we're already in support of, and through the sales of the produce and fruits that we'll generate up here, we'll donate those proceeds. I hope to donate those proceeds to the schools. I like to mentor. I like to getting back to the kid thing. I mean, I do things for local organizations that help to kind of feed that interest of mine. But I'm also into athletics. You know, I mountain bike ride. I live right here on the mountain, and so I try to get some time doing that. And I helicopter ski, and I have a great group of friends that do that with me, and it's adventurous to say the least, and thrilling. And I spend a lot of times with my kids. I can't get enough of that. It's really about following your heart. I mean, I know it's a cliche of sorts, but I do believe that success, if your true passion comes from a genuine place, success will follow. That's certainly been my journey. This all became a sort of a means to an end. I never really watched much of the scoreboard, even though, like I said, we've always done better than the previous year, without ever having advertised. But it was really more about being the best that we could be along the way, and people respond favorably there. And of course, giving back along the way, I think, is a big part of that. You know, it's got to be cyclical. It's got to be somewhat sustainable in that regard. Some would say that being a small, independent, local operator is a disadvantage. We found that to be a tremendous advantage because we were able to kind of get to understand, after several years of trial and error, what our customer base really needed and desired, and we were able to respond quickly to those desires and even define it along the way. And while it's constantly a moving target to sort of define those needs. We were able to see that as being a large positive. And my dream is to take it now to the next level and do as much to exemplify what we have always stood for. It's local, local, local. Everything from community, schools, production, or cultivation of the finest produce. How great would it be to be at the cafe and know that you know, what you're eating could have been on the vine that morning or the day before? You know, we're very fortunate. We have a great life. It's our duty and responsibility to share that with others. People less fortunate, I think it's a big part of success and giving back, and I think that represents probably what my next chapter will be on some level or another. I can't really tell you exactly how, but that's where I'm drawn, and I hope my kids are involved with that as well. They will be if I have any say in it.
Thanks for watching this episode of Business with Passion. If you'd like more information about Don Santa, other guests, or perhaps to be a guest on a future show, go online to tv.manygoodideas.com.